What's going on, guys? My name is Neeb. Welcome back to AROMATIX. Today we're going to be talking about 10 Lattafas that you probably don't hear much about. If you're in the Lattafa space, then you've likely heard about a few of these. But there might be one or two that you might not have heard of, or you just don't really see too much information about. And these are actually good ones. I didn't want to just come and give you guys some flops. These are really, really good. Starting off with the first one, this is called Qaed Intense. Obviously looking exactly like the original Qaed, except not gold, and rather this color. I'm colorblind. This has key notes of whiskey, iris, and amber. It's such a sexy date night fragrance. If you like those lipstick iris type of makeup vibes, I know it sounds strange, but it's extremely addicting, then you're absolutely gonna love this one. I've done some comparisons with other fragrances like Sincerity by Grandeur and even Afkaar by Fragrance World, and they all have their differences. This one being something I feel like in between a lot of those other fragrances and really damn good. Longevity of this was like 7+ hours, and what you basically get is this ambery, boozy lipstick iris vibe, perfect for date nights, and the price point is even better. Imagine going on a date to like a bar basically, and you've got a woman with you wearing makeup, but that's kind of what it illustrates. It's sexy, it's seductive, it's boozy. I don't drink, but this does smell amazing, genuinely. A date night style fragrance for under 35 bucks is absolutely insane. The performance being something that's also acceptable and some, especially for the price, and the total refinement being like you would not expect a fragrance to smell this good at this price point. So everything considered, 100% worth getting, and if you like those lipstick iris vibes, get your hands on this. For sure, worth having. Moving on to the next one, this is Zingy Ginger, Amber Woods, and Fruits. It's called Afkaar by Lattafa. A lesser talked of fragrance, and actually reminds me of Royal Sapphire by Lattafa as well. It has that similar, amber, gris, ambroxan, sponge sugar, saffron vibe, but more interesting. And this, in fact, is stronger than Royal Sapphire for me personally, and it lasts easily at least 6 to 8 hours, I would say. It smells very expensive. This smells like niche level stuff. One of the ones that's been flying under the radar for quite some time, but if you're in the space, then you likely know about this one. I found this for around $40 to $45, and I have to admit, it is worth it if you like that saffron amber wood style DNA. Pretty unisex as well. I do think it leans slightly feminine, but guys, I rock fragrances like this all the time, and it works for me. Zingy Ginger, very fresh. It's got a lot of fruits at the top, and it dries down into basically the saffron amber wood style fragrance. So the performance of this one is slightly above average. I'm not gonna call it beastly or anything like that, but it's absolutely, it smells more expensive. This damn near smells niche quality stuff for sure. In terms of the occasions, you could dress this one up. It smells like class, like weddings, like dinner dates, and just where you want to be noticed or just smell like you have some money. So for the price, even though it's a little bit $40, $45, if you can find it for any less than that, hell yeah, get your hands on this one. Unisex, like I said, so gentlemen, you have been warned, but ladies, you could easily rock this one as well. Moving on to the next one, the hype of this one died, honestly. I haven't really seen much talk about this anymore, at least. This is called Qasaed Al Sultan. Aromatic spiced ambery tobacco fragrance. Super sexy date night vibes. And in fact, this has lasted longer than other designer fragrances that do tobacco, ambers, and some spices. It gives me warm cardamom tea vibes, but also having a freshness to make this even more versatile. You don't just have to wear something like this for dates, but if you like those date vibes, this is one of those that has a little bit of a fresher aspect and unbelievable for the price tag. This is harder to find. Although it's around $30 to $35, it's honestly harder to find. It took me about 6 months to find this one, and it's more likely because it's an older fragrance, but this is one of the old gems for sure from Lattafa. Lasts 7+ hours, giving me more performance than other designers that smell like this that I've paid over $85+ on discounters. So even for that 35 bucks, if you like warm ambery tobacco, you're absolutely going to love this. Now, I'm not going to say that this is like a tobacco-centric fragrance, but mostly what you get is ambers, so like warm woods basically, and a little bit of that spiced cardamom with an earthy undertone. It's not like tobacco cigarettes, you're not gonna think about stuff like that. So although sexy and date night, it does have certain class that kind of dresses this one up as well. So a man who's dressed up and sipping on some cardamom tea, basically. Long story short, signature scent worthy for the fall and even during the winter time. And you can take this to the office and follow it on into a date night easily. Moving on to the price point for $35, it's a great deal. Just good luck finding it. An oldie, but a goodie. Moving on to the next one, similar case actually. It's called Raghba by Lattafa. One of the ones that doesn't get as much appreciation anymore, I should say. We hear about Amir Al Intense, we hear about Raghba Wood Intense, and this is obviously the original of that whole Raghba vibe. So Raghba Wood Intense has a bit more incense, a bit more smoky. This one kind of takes that edge off. It just does the sugar, the oud, and that's pretty much it, man. It smells like bakhur, except not as incensey. A sugar-based bakhur, basically. Although the notes does have a note of incense, this is a lot more vanillic, sugary, and it does have that note of oud. The oud in here is definitely not as animalistic as you would expect with a lot of oud, but more so towards the sandalwood and just giving it a slight darker woods vibe, basically. The incense is present, but in comparison to their Raghba Wood Intense, it's not nearly as incensey. It definitely gives you the whole being by the fireplace vibe, and it's absolutely more sugary than something like Raghba Wood Intense. It kind of does the whole Amir Al-Oud, Raghba Wood Intense, except the most mild of them all, I would personally say. Amir Al-Oud Intense does have an herbal nature to it that kind of makes it, you know, pop and really adds a little bit of a sharpness to it. This one removes all of the edges of basically both of those fragrances. I still think it's great. It lasts all day, and it's a lot simpler. Definitely going back to a more traditional Middle Eastern style DNA. Like I said, this is one that was talked about for a long time, but then just kind of poof, it was gone. And that would almost make you assume that it's a bad fragrance, but I don't think by any means it's a bad one, just more of an old school style Middle Eastern fragrance. Still really good. Sugar, vanilla, oud, it's pretty simple, but it's really good. And for the price, this usually goes anywhere from like $12 to $18. I think it's absolutely worth having, even just to get cozied up. It smells really good. And that's basically the occasions I'd rock this to get cozied up, Netflix and chill, and that's pretty much it. Green apple, clary sage, and cashmeran. This smells like those blue vibes, those sugary blue vibes you just got out of the shower. Very fresh, but having much more of a crisp nature to it in the opening. It smells very familiar with those aromatic blue fresh fragrances that are sweet, bubblegummy, except this one does have a little bit of that lighter nature from the top coming from green apple. And I would personally say that that green apple is very attention grabbing, the crisp nature of it. And generally speaking, I kid you not, actually a lot of my complimented fragrances have that green apple note. And generally speaking, a couple of fragrances that use green apple, in my experience, that have gotten me a crap ton of compliments is like Legend Night, even something from Boss. Those have gotten me compliments. While this one is definitely fresher than anything like that, they still all have that note of apple in common, and it works in this one. It's fresher, it's got that aromatic clary sage, it's got a sugary nature, and then it starts to get warm and dries down into something really good. This one, because it is lesser known, it's cheaper than their other fragrances that kind of do the similar realm, like Sheikh Al Shuyukh Final Edition, and also the whole Lattafa's Afkaar. So if you like those vibes, this one you're going to like. A bit fresher. So basically what you could expect with this is a similar vibe to Afkaar, but a bit fresher and more crisp. And for that reason, I really like this one. It's like a lighter take on that DNA, and it ends up making it seem just a little bit higher quality, or more attention grabbing, if you will, from that crisp apple. In terms of the performance, I got about 6+ hours for under $25. It's absolutely a no-brainer. The occasions, everywhere, every day, anytime, any place. Dates, gym, office, literally anywhere. A sleeper. This is definitely one that's less known and less talked about, and absolutely worth it. Next one up is another one in the community, but not necessarily as well known, and it's called Sutoor by Lattafa. A lot of people find similarities to this and another popular peach fragrance, and I mean, it's because of the fact that when you use peach in such a concentration, it's almost gonna always smell similar, obviously, right? And I have quite a few fragrances that do peach like this. One of my favorite peach, like if you want peach nectar style fragrances, would be Areeq Gold 40 edition. So this is like peach, pineapple blossom. There's so much to this fragrance that's just wow, raunchy. But Sutoor has a lot of common notes with a lot of other popular fragrances, and it absolutely smells or reminds me of more expensive peach fragrances for like $300+. This, in my opinion, is even more of a twist on their own peach DNAs from Lattafa, and I actually enjoyed a little bit more. A couple of different aspects than some of their peach fragrances, maybe adding a little bit more florals or some boozy nature. For that reason, it goes slightly less jammy, giving it a more natural feel. It's not necessarily that the peach isn't jammy, it absolutely still is, but it has a bit more emphasis on some of those florals, some of those woods, making this one a better fragrance overall, and even more suitable for gentlemen who enjoy that peach style DNA. Sutoor, absolutely worth it, and one of my favorite cheapies around the peach DNA, easily. The total longevity for this is 8+ hours, which is solid, and the occasions is something more flirty, fun, and playful. It's not necessarily going to be anything that, you know, you could potentially take it to dates, ladies, but other than that, it's going to be spring, summer, etc. But for the price and the longevity, it's absolutely I mean, how often are you going to buy peach-centric fragrances? And it's not really that often, and generally speaking, you're going to start to smell a lot alike. This one, definitely worth the money for around $40 or $45. Another one that's harder to find. It smells really good. Moving on to the next one. one, this is a lesser talked about one because of its simplicity, but it makes it absolutely worth it because of that. It's called Tharwah Silver by Lattafa as well. One of their pride, I suppose it is. And what this smells like, guys, is a mall fragrance. Genuinely, you're going up to the counter, you want something fresh and woody, and that's everything that I would personally want from a daily beater fragrance. This is one of the best daily beater fragrances you can have in your collection, man. It's masculine, it's woody, it's got that vetiver, a little bit of this spice kick coming from the aromatics. Hands down, a must-have in any man's arsenal that wants that citrus woods that's just easy, man. So if you want to taste the more modern day designer style, fresh, woody fragrances, this will absolutely get you there, and you're not going to question the quality of this one at freaking all. This is like, I'm at Macy's and I went up to one of the counters and I saw a bottle, it just happened to be this, and sprayed it on. It's literally that good, you guys. This is honestly really good. This actually smells better than your typical 9-to-5er, not gonna lie. It has a little bit more of a sophistication. I wanted to say this is a 9-to-5er style fragrance, but honestly, it can be. That's the beauty of this one. Dress it up, dress it down. The vetiver citrus and clary sage combination makes this one very classic while still being modern at the same time. The whole lavender fougere-esque style DNA, it's in the backbone, but it's not something that's prominent. In terms of the performance, it gives me 6+ hours. It'll last you a work day and some. You can wear it to the gym, you can wear it to the date, you can wear it during the summertime. This is literally that good. For dates though, it's only one that where you want to smell just clean, simple. It's like a casual being at the coffee shop, etc. So I personally do see someone who's like a 9-to-5er that works at the office, that likes to take care of himself, wearing something fresh, easy, inoffensive, and potentially even compliment worthy. Whether you're a teenager, whether you're in your 20s or 30s or even 40s, if you're looking for a fresh, masculine, woody fragrance, this is the one to go with. Moving on to the next one. This is an oldie, but a goodie, but not really talked about much anymore. I fell in love with this one and I initially got it, and it has gotten better with time. This is called Lattafa's Najdia. So Najdia and Hayati I found to have some similarities, except this one does have a few differences. And the main difference is going to be according to the notes, which is lemongrass and apple. Now remember what I said about the apple, you guys. It's crisp, and that's exactly what this one opens up like. So if you think of Hayati, this absolutely has resemblances, and could it potentially be redundant? Maybe. It's just the opening that makes this one pretty damn different. I would personally say that you're safe going with either one, but to my nose, Hayati does have a bit of sweetness. You have been warned though, there might be some redundancy. This one just taking that sweet amberwoods fresh, aromatic sage, and giving it a little bit of a crisp nature at the top, and a slight bit of freshness as well. So the other thing I noticed with this one is it does have seemingly a bit more aromatics, and considering the fact that this has rosemary in the mid of the fragrance as well, could potentially be the reason. Nevertheless, it's an oldie but a goodie that you probably haven't seen much talk of in a long time. In terms of its performance, I don't have a problem, and more so nowadays, it's literally almost all day on clothing. The occasions, literally everywhere and anywhere. I just wouldn't personally try and date this one up, just because it's not that it smells cheap, it's just the DNA in itself is like playful, etc. You'll smell good, and if you're talking to a lady that's not really into fragrance, this will absolutely work. But other than that, if you're trying to impress, for me personally, I would want to go with something more like this. This is more date night appropriate, basically. So for the price, for under 22 bucks, sometimes I find this for like 17. For even under $30, I think it's definitely worth the grab, if not the mention at the very least. Moving on to the next one, it's called Simply Oud by Lattafa. Also another oldie, but a goodie. It's definitely a goodie. This has amber, cardamom, praline, rose, some ambers. This is an excellent date night style fragrance that can be worn even signature for me personally. I love this stuff. It's rich, it's woody, it's masculine, it's creamy as well, all at the same time, while having some class and exuding some class from some of that cardamom, the spices, and the rose. This would be like a high-end signature scent for me personally, but I like wearing more sweet, slightly seductive vibes on a daily basis, and this will absolutely accomplish that. If you like the whole sweetened oud with a little bit of peppers, maybe even some saffron vibes, you're going to like this one. Although having that typical oud, saffron, vanilla style combination, it does its own thing. I feel like this one's a bit more heavy around the sweets because of the addition of the praline, and the amber and musk seems a bit more amped up, more so than that saffron or anything that's spicy, more amber centric rather than those spices and the saffron. Moral of the story, sexy. That's it, period. You can signature scent it, but you can dress it up or potentially dress it down. You have to be into ambery style fragrances. It's not gonna be most appropriate for signature scent for most people, but for me, I like oud, I like vanilla, and so for me, definitely signature signature scent worthy. In terms of the performance, I get 8+ hours out of this one easily, and generally speaking, I don't really like to put fragrances on lists or recommendations, etc., unless there's something that at the very least give me some form of longevity. I like to spray my fragrances at least like 6 to 8 times, you guys. That's like the floor for me, where starting point, unless it's something that's absolutely nuclear stuff. Now, I wouldn't necessarily say that I have to do that for something like Sutoor because it is pretty jammy, but for the rest, I would say that that's a pretty accurate average to say. A more appropriate occasions for the masses for Simply Oud would be date nights, would be Netflix and chill, cuddle vibes, going out to a dinner date where you don't want to be, you know, too loud, but still be present. That's what Simply Oud would be more suited for the spring, for the fall, and for the winter time. Spring, it'll easily get through it because, like I said, it's not too dense and it's not too loud in terms of the projection for those spices. I've even rocked this during the summertime and it was just fine. For the price, since it's not really the most hyped in the world, it's usually under $30. Absolutely no-brainer. Last but not least, this is a newer one. It's called Areeq Gold, and this is phenomenal. I love this. If you like leather and suede, get this fragrance. So a lot of people have been saying that it has a feminine edge. I find it extremely unisex. There are other fragrances that do suede, leather, etc. that are pretty damn unisex. In fact, this smells like leather, suede, vanilla with added aromatic tea, basically. And it's not anything off-putting. The saffron also in this one makes it project seemingly a little bit harder. There's a little bit of incense. It's so sexy. This is such a sexy ass suede fragrance. Suede, vanilla, tea, and saffron with a little bit of incense. Absolutely phenomenal for the price point. I personally think that this is one of the most unique Lattafas that I've smelled in a long time, and it's just something else. Sure, it has like a very familiar suede vanilla combo as many other fragrances in the market nowadays, but it has its own touches. The suede, the vanilla, but it also adds this beautiful saffron, the tea, pretty aromatic, attention grabbing, also seductive, sweet, incensey. This is a 10. This is easily a 10 from Lattafa. And I'm sorry, but I find this to be extremely unisex. And as it starts to dry down, it makes things even more interesting with this amberwoods. Fire, fire. Niche level stuff for under 50 bucks. And what's crazy is, for the most part, usually it's even lower than that. In terms of the performance, it lasts literally all day. That suede and vanilla combination with the incense is not going anywhere. Much more interesting than other, like even Areeq Gold by the same brand. This is very interesting. It also does that suede and vanilla, sure, but it has more to it. You guys, the saffron, the incense, the amberwoods, it livens things up, makes it more unisex, but I love it for exactly that. Beautiful fragrance. I give it a 10 out of 10, and it lasts all day. In terms of the occasions, you want to smell like $1,000,000. It gives you that seductive vibe, but also on a more interesting and smelling like more expensive, basically. The saffron, the oriental touch, the kick, the aromatics. It's definitely more of an interesting fragrance. Dates, weddings. I personally wouldn't signature scent. It just smells too damn expensive, but just where you want to smell expensive during the fall, spring, and winter time. Summertime, you could even potentially get away with it. I would personally wear it. I wear anything I want whenever. And yeah, it's really just up to you. You have to kind of test it. It's not really the thickest fragrance in the world, and that's why I think you can get away with it. Just maybe not the highest of heat over like 90 degrees Fahrenheit. For the price, everything considered, an absolute no-brainer. There you have it, ladies and gentlemen. 10 Lattafa fragrances you might not have heard of in a long time, or you might not have heard of completely. Let me know down in the comment section which one you haven't heard of or you've been wondering about a little bit more. Make sure to leave a like, hit that subscribe button, and until the next video, peace.